I'm Debra, 17, and my life shattered when my mom vanished. My siblings Jackson, 15, and Lily, 10, were as confused as I was. 3 years after the divorce, we thought things were finally stable. Mom was dating Richard, who seemed nice enough with his 2 kids. But that Thursday, we came home to an empty house, no food, and a strange text showing Mom on a beach with Richard's children. The betrayal cut deep, leaving us alone and scared. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from, and hit subscribe to join me on this journey of betrayal and unexpected strength. Our parents divorced when I was 14. It wasn't a huge surprise they argued constantly during my early teens, but it still turned our world upside down. After the divorce finalized, Mom got primary custody since Dad traveled frequently for work. We stayed in our modest 3-bedroom home in Sterling Heights, Michigan, a typical suburban neighborhood with decent schools and enough yard space for Lily to play. In the 3 years since the split, I had become the glue holding our fractured family together. Jackson, always the quiet one, retreated further into himself, finding solace in video games and track practice. Lily, who had been 7 when it happened, still occasionally asked when Dad was coming home to stay. I took on the role of part-time parent, helping with homework, making lunches, and trying to maintain some sense of normalcy. "Debra, can you make sure Jackson and Lily get dinner tonight? I might be home late," became Mom's standard phrase, delivered with increasing frequency. At first I didn't mind. I understood she needed to rebuild her life, but gradually her absences stretched longer. The transformation in Mom after the divorce was startling. Karen Williams, once content with family movie nights and backyard barbecues, suddenly dyed her shoulder-length brown hair, blonde, invested in a new wardrobe, and downloaded every dating app available. She shed her identity as a mother, like an uncomfortable sweater, eager to reinvent herself at 41. "Life is too short to waste another minute," she declared one evening, applying lipstick before heading out to meet friends I had never heard of before. 6 months ago, she met Richard Blackwood, a commercial real estate developer with slick business cards and a luxury car that seemed out of place in our driveway. He was 45, recently divorced, and had 2 teenagers, Aiden, 16, and Sophia, 14, who lived with him part-time. From the beginning, there was something calculating about Richard's smile that made my stomach knot, but Mom couldn't see past his expensive suits and compliments. Our first blended family dinner was an awkward affair at an upscale restaurant where the prices made me wince. Aiden spent the entire meal texting under the table, while Sophia made thinly veiled comments about our clothes and neighborhood. "So you guys go to Stevenson High. Isn't that where they had those drug busts last year?" Sophia asked with exaggerated concern, twirling her pasta with manicured fingers. "That was one incident and it was blown out of proportion," I defended, feeling Jackson tense beside me. "Well, Westlake Prep has a zero-tolerance policy," she replied smugly, referencing her private school. Mom just laughed uncomfortably and changed the subject while Richard watched the interaction with amused detachment. It set the tone for all our subsequent interactions. As weeks passed, Richard showered Mom with attention and gifts. Weekend getaways, designer handbags, dinner at restaurants where the servers spoke French. Mom soaked it up, coming home with shopping bags and tales of places we had never been. Meanwhile, our family traditions fell by the wayside. Our Sunday pancake breakfasts disappeared. Mom missed Jackson's track meet, where he placed second in the state. She forgot to help Lily prepare for her science fair, leaving me to step in at the last minute. "Mom, you promised you would be there," Lily said, her voice small when Mom announced she couldn't attend the fair. "Sweetie, Richard got us tickets to a show downtown. You understand, right? Debra will take pictures." She kissed the top of Lily's head and missed the tears welling in her eyes. Throughout this time, Dad remained our constant. Despite his limited visitation every other weekend and Wednesday dinners, he never missed an important event. Working 2 jobs as an IT specialist during the day and weekend security guard to keep up with child support and his own bills, he still managed to attend every game recital and school meeting. "I'm so proud of you 3. He would say, his eyes tired but genuine. "No matter what, we're family." While Mom dove into her new relationship, I took on more responsibility at home. I learned to cook more than just mac and cheese, helped Lily with increasingly complicated homework, and made sure Jackson didn't completely withdraw from the world. I was 17, but felt much older. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. Mom started staying out overnight, claiming she was at Richard's, but forgetting that Instagram location tags told a different story. There were hushed phone calls that ended abruptly when one of us entered the room. Once I overheard her talking about schools in Florida, though she denied it when I asked. "You're being paranoid, Debra," she said with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "Florida, I hate humidity." But the biggest red flag came when Richard's children started receiving special treatment. When Sophia mentioned wanting the latest iPhone, Mom surprised her with one to make her feel welcome in our family. Meanwhile, Jackson had been saving for months to replace his cracked phone screen. "It's different," Mom said when I confronted her. "We're trying to build bridges." It felt like we were no longer enough for her, like she was auditioning for a role in Richard's life, and we were props that didn't quite fit the scene. But even with all these warning signs, nothing prepared us for what happened that Thursday in April, when our mother decided her boyfriend's children were more important than her own. Thursday started like any other day. Mom was putting on makeup in the bathroom while I made breakfast for everyone. She was wearing her work clothes, a pencil skirt and blouse for her job as an administrative assistant at a local accounting firm. "I have a late meeting tonight, so don't wait up," she said, checking her reflection. "There are leftovers in the fridge." "Again, that's the third time this week," I pointed out, handing Lily her lunch bag. Mom kissed my cheek, avoiding my eyes. "That's how it goes sometimes. Big tax season rush." Something felt off, but I was running late for school and didn't press further. That was my first mistake. The day dragged on with tests and college application discussions with my guidance counselor. By the time the final bell rang, all I wanted was to go home and relax. Jackson had track practice, so I picked up Lily from elementary school, and we walked the 6 blocks home together. "Do you think Mom will make spaghetti tonight?" Lily asked, skipping alongside me. "She said she has a meeting, so probably not," I replied, juggling her backpack and mine. "But we can make some if you want." When we reached our house, I immediately noticed Mom's car was gone, which wasn't unusual given her meeting. But when I unlocked the door, the house felt different. Too quiet, too still, as if it had been empty longer than just the school day. "Mom," Lily called, dropping her backpack by the stairs. No answer. I did a quick sweep of the house, a creeping unease building in my stomach. Mom's bedroom door was open, which was strange since she always closed it when she left for work. Inside, I noticed her dresser drawers partially open, some clothes missing. Her favorite perfume was gone from the vanity, along with her travel toiletry bag. "That's weird," I muttered, pulling out my phone to text her. No response. When I checked the kitchen, my unease turned to alarm. The refrigerator contained a half-gallon of milk, some condiments, and wilted lettuce. The freezer had one frozen pizza and some ice cream. The pantry was similarly bare: cereal, a few cans of soup pasta, but no sauce. Mom usually grocery shopped on Wednesdays. There should have been more food. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. No message, just a photo. When I opened it, my breath caught. It was Mom beaming on a white sand beach, her arm around Sophia, who was wearing a matching sun hat. Richard and Aiden stood nearby, holding tropical drinks. They were all smiling, sun-kissed, and happy. I stared at the picture, confusion giving way to realization, and then a cold, sinking feeling. The timestamp showed it had been taken 2 hours ago. "Debra." "What's wrong?" Lily asked, peering at my phone. Her small face crumpled when she saw the image. "Is that Mom? Where is she?" "I don't know." I lied, not wanting to confirm what was becoming obvious. "Let me call her." My call went straight to voicemail. I tried 3 more times with the same result. When Jackson got home from track practice, he found me frantically searching Mom's room for clues. "What are you doing?" he asked, dropping his gym bag. I showed him the photo. His face hardened, a muscle twitching in his jaw. "So she went on vacation with them and didn't tell us." His voice was flat, masking hurt with anger. "I don't know for sure," I said, though the evidence was mounting. The next discovery came when I went looking for the emergency credit card Mom kept in her desk. It was gone. So was her passport. The final confirmation came from the family computer. Though the browser history had been cleared, the autofill suggestions revealed searches for Caribbean all-inclusive resorts and San Juan weather April. Jackson punched the wall, leaving a small dent in the drywall. "She left us. She actually fucking left us for them." Lily started crying, quiet sniffles that broke my heart. Did she forget about us? I pulled her close, my mind racing. No, sweetie. I'm sure there's an explanation. But I knew there wasn't. My attempts to contact Richard were equally futile. His phone was off his office, saying he was out of the country on business. That evening, I did some detective work on social media. Richard's daughter Sophia had accidentally tagged their location in a post she quickly deleted, but not before I saw it. The Grand Seaview Resort in Puerto Rico. Mom had taken a week off work, according to a colleague who replied to my text claiming a family emergency. The irony wasn't lost on me. The real family emergency was happening right here, with 3 kids abandoned without warning. That first night alone was the hardest. I scrounged together dinner from what we had boxed mac and cheese with frozen peas mixed in. While Jackson sulked and barely ate, Lily kept asking questions I couldn't answer. When is she coming back? Why didn't she take us too? Does she love Richard's kids more than us? As I tucked her into bed, her final question broke me. Did we do something wrong, Debra? I held my sister until she fell asleep, tears silently rolling down my face. In the hallway, I found Jackson sitting against the wall, his expression vacant. We should call Dad, he said. I shook my head. Not yet. Mom would lose custody for sure. Let's just wait and see if she contacts us tomorrow. That was my second mistake. I was still protecting the mother who had abandoned us without a second thought. The betrayal was complete, but I wasn't ready to admit it. Not yet. I didn't sleep that night, the knot in my stomach growing tighter as the hours passed and my phone remained silent. The next morning, Friday, reality sank in. Mom had left us alone possibly for an entire week without proper food, without emergency contacts, without a word. We had approximately $68 in cash between us, 1 frozen pizza cereal, and whatever I could cobble together from the pantry. We need groceries, I announced at breakfast, counting out our meager funds. But we have to be careful with the money. I can skip lunch at school, Jackson offered, his expression grim. Save the lunch money. No, you have track. You need to eat, I insisted. Getting Lily to school was the first challenge. She was convinced Mom would return while she was gone. I promised to text her throughout the day, reminding her not to tell anyone about our situation. The fear of being separated and put into foster care hung unspoken between us. At school, maintaining normalcy took every ounce of my energy. I smiled through classes, made excuses for why Mom couldn't attend a parent-teacher conference, and avoided my friends' invitations to hang out. Are you okay? My friend Jenna asked during lunch. You seem distracted. Just stressed about finals and college apps. I lied, pushing food around my plate. After school, I took our emergency funds to the discount grocery store, calculating every item against our budget. Eggs, bread, peanut butter, pasta beans, the cheapest vegetables. I had to leave behind the fresh fruit Lily loved and the protein bars Jackson needed for track. $68 doesn't go far for 3 people for a week. When I got home, I found Jackson hadn't gone to track practice. Where were you? I asked, unpacking groceries. Got a job, he said, showing me $30. Helped Mr. Reeves clean out his garage. He said I can come back tomorrow to paint his fence. My 15-year-old brother had taken it upon himself to find work. Pride and heartbreak collided in my chest. That night, I finally received a text from Mom. Having a wonderful time. Make sure Lily does her reading log. No explanation, no apology, not even a question about whether we were okay. I typed and deleted multiple angry responses before simply writing, "When are you coming home? We need groceries." Her reply came hours later. Don't be dramatic. You have the emergency card if you really need something. Back next Thursday. I didn't tell my siblings about this exchange. Instead, I stayed up making a meal plan to stretch our food a schedule to ensure someone was always with Lily, and lists of excuses to give to teachers, neighbors, and friends. The weekend brought new challenges. Lily developed anxiety, waking with nightmares, while Jackson's anger manifested in long silences broken by outbursts of rage. I became both parent and counselor, all while managing my own sense of betrayal. On Sunday, I discovered a pile of mail Mom had hidden before leaving. Among them, an eviction warning we were 2 months behind on rent. The careful financial house of cards Mom had been maintaining was collapsing in her absence. What happens if we get evicted? Jackson asked when I made the mistake of cursing loudly enough for him to hear. We won't, I promised. though I had no idea how to keep that promise. By Monday, our neighbor Mrs. Patterson was getting suspicious. She caught me as I was rushing Lily to school. "Everything all right, Debra? Haven't seen your mom's car for a few days." I forced a smile. "She's visiting a sick relative. We're fine." "You kids need anything? I made extra lasagna." Pride warred with practicality. We needed the food. "That would be great, actually. Thank you." That lasagna was the first proper meal we'd had in days. I swallowed my pride again and accepted Mrs. Patterson's offer to drive Lily to and from school, freeing me up to handle other crises. Meanwhile, Mom's social media showed a steady stream of vacation photos, parasailing, cocktails at sunset, shopping trips. In each one, she posed with Richard and his kids like a perfect family. Our existence had been temporarily erased. The rare texts from her grew increasingly dismissive. "You're nearly an adult, Debra. Stop being so needy. I deserve some happiness after everything I've done for you three." Richard's children never give him this kind of grief. By Wednesday, Lily stopped asking when Mom was coming home. Instead, she shadowed me around the house, afraid I too might disappear. Jackson worked odd jobs for neighbors after school, coming home with small amounts of cash and exhaustion in his eyes. I juggled school assignments, household chores, and mounting bills, running on minimal sleep and maximum stress. Then came Thursday evening, exactly 1 week after Mom had disappeared. My phone pinged with an Instagram notification. With trembling fingers, I opened it to find Mom had posted a photo of her hand sporting a massive diamond ring. The caption read, "Said yes to forever with my soulmate, blending our beautiful family. Blessed # new beginnings." There we were, abandoned at home, eating the last of our food, while our mother celebrated her engagement with her real family. The three of us stared at the phone in silence, the final betrayal sinking in. She hadn't just left us for a vacation. She had left us for a new life. Our mother returned on Friday afternoon, exactly 8 days after disappearing. I heard her key in the lock and froze in the kitchen where I was inventorying our remaining food. Lily, who had stayed home with a stomachache I suspected was anxiety, ran to the door with a cry of relief. "Mommy!" Karen Williams stepped into our house like a stranger, suntan glowing against her white sundress, new diamond ring catching the light, designer shopping bags hanging from one arm. She hugged Lily with her free arm, her smile faltering slightly as she saw me standing in the kitchen doorway. "There are my babies. Did you miss me?" Richard and I had the most amazing time. The casual tone, as if she'd stepped out for coffee rather than abandoned her children for over a week, ignited something in me. But before I could speak, Jackson thundered down the stairs. "Where the hell were you?" he demanded, voice cracking. Mom's smile tightened. "Language, Jackson. I was on a little vacation. You guys are old enough to manage for a few days." 8 days, I corrected coldly. "You left us for 8 days with no food, no money, and no warning." She waved dismissively, setting her shopping bags on the couch. "Don't be so dramatic, Debra. There was plenty of food, and you had the emergency card." "You took it," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "We had $68 between us. Jackson had to do yard work for neighbors to buy groceries." A flicker of guilt crossed her face before she rallied. "Well, it builds character. You're practically an adult anyway. And look, I brought presents." From the shopping bags came souvenirs, cheap trinkets with Puerto Rico logos, nothing we needed or wanted. For Lily, a plastic doll that was clearly an afterthought. For Jackson, a keychain. For me, a beach towel. Meanwhile, her phone kept lighting up with texts which she checked and answered while half listening to Lily's excited chatter about the doll. "Where's the rest of your luggage?" I asked, suddenly noticing she had only brought in a small carry-on and shopping bags. "Oh, I dropped most of it at Richard's. It's actually why I came by. We need to talk." She gathered us in the living room, perching on the edge of the couch like she was at a business meeting. With rehearsed enthusiasm, she announced, "Richard and I are engaged. Isn't that wonderful? He proposed on the beach at sunset. So romantic." None of us congratulated her. Lily looked confused. Jackson scowled, and I waited for the other shoe to drop. "And the best part," she continued, undeterred by our lack of excitement, "is we're moving to Florida. Richard got an amazing opportunity to develop a resort community in Naples. We leave in 3 weeks." The bomb had been dropped. 3 weeks to uproot our entire lives. "What about school?" I asked. What about Dad's visitation? What about our friends? I've found an excellent school for you all, she replied smoothly. Much better than Stevenson. As for visitation, your father will have to adjust. He can fly down sometimes. You can't just move us across the country, Jackson protested. Actually, I can. I have primary custody. Her tone had shifted from excited to irritated. This isn't up for discussion. The decision has been made. As the argument escalated, more details emerged. She had already enrolled us in new schools without consulting us. She had put down a deposit on a house in Richard's name. Most disturbingly, she had hidden these plans from Dad, planning to present him with a fait accompli. Richard says it's better to ask forgiveness than permission in these situations, she explained with a nervous laugh. Then came the room assignments. The house has 5 bedrooms. Richard and I will have the master, of course. Aiden gets the second largest because he's the oldest. Sophia gets the room with the private bathroom because, well, teenage girls need their space. Jackson, you and Lily will share the room off the kitchen temporarily, and Debra, you'll take the converted office space. Aiden and Sophia get their own rooms, but Jackson and Lily have to share, I asked incredulously. Just until we can finish the pool house, then Jackson can move out there. It became clear that in this new blended family, we were second-tier members. Richard's children received priority in every decision: better rooms, better schools, better treatment. Why are you doing this? I finally asked, my voice breaking. For a moment, Mom's mask slipped. Because Richard makes me happy in a way I haven't been in years. He takes care of me. His children respect him and will adapt well to our new life. You 3 have been... She paused, searching for words, resistant to change. But that ends now. Either you accept our new family with good attitudes, or you make things difficult for everyone. Your choice. Jackson stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. Lily burst into tears, running to her room. I remained staring at the stranger who had replaced our mother. That evening, Richard came over ostensibly to get to know us better before the move. He walked through our house with thinly veiled disdain, making comments about upgrading our living situation and how fortunate we were that he was willing to take on 3 additional children. The worst moment came when I overheard him talking to Mom in the kitchen, thinking they were alone. The girls might adjust, but that boy has an attitude problem, Richard said. We'll need to fix that before we move. They're just shocked, Mom replied. Once they see the house and the lifestyle we can provide, they'll come around. And if they don't, his tone carried a warning. They will, Mom insisted. They don't have a choice. That night, after everyone was asleep, I made a decision. I called my father. Dad answered on the second ring, his voice groggy with sleep. It was past midnight, but I couldn't wait another day. Debra, what's wrong? His immediate concern, so different from Mom's dismissal, brought tears to my eyes. Everything, I whispered, sitting on the bathroom floor with the door locked. Mom left us alone for a week to go on vacation with Richard and his kids. Now she's engaged and trying to move us to Florida in 3 weeks. The silence on the other end was brief but heavy. Are you and your siblings safe right now? Yes, she's back home. But Dad, she's serious about this move. She already enrolled us in schools there. Start from the beginning, he said, fully awake now. Tell me everything. For the next hour, I detailed the abandonment, the struggle to feed ourselves, the eviction notice, and finally the bombshell about Florida. I could hear Dad taking notes, asking clarifying questions, his voice growing increasingly controlled the way it did when he was furious, but trying not to show it. I'm coming over, he said when I finished. I'll be there by morning. Don't tell your mother I'm coming. Just act normal. She'll be at work, I said, relief washing over me. Perfect. Pack bags for you and your siblings, enough for a few days. I'm calling my lawyer tonight. True to his word, Dad arrived at 8:30 the next morning after Mom had left for work. He looked exhausted, having driven 4 hours from Cleveland, where he had moved after the divorce to find better-paying work. The moment Lily saw him, she threw herself into his arms, sobbing. You came, she kept saying. You came. Dad hugged each of us tightly, then switched to action mode. He walked through the house, taking photos of the nearly empty refrigerator, the stack of unpaid bills, the eviction notice. He had me forward all of Mom's dismissive texts to his phone. He interviewed each of us separately about the week alone, recording our statements on his phone with our permission. "This is abandonment and neglect," he said grimly, "and attempting to move you across state lines without my knowledge violates our custody agreement." By noon, Dad had contacted his lawyer, who was already filing for an emergency custody hearing. We packed overnight bags as instructed, not knowing if we'd be returning. Mom came home early, likely tipped off by a neighbor who saw Dad's car. She burst through the door, face flushed with anger. "What do you think you're doing, Mark?" she demanded, using Dad's first name the way she did when particularly angry. "Taking care of our children," he replied calmly. "Something you failed to do when you abandoned them for a week." "I did not abandon them. Debra is 17, perfectly capable of watching her siblings for a few days. Without food, without money, without even telling them you were leaving." Dad's controlled fury was palpable. "And now you're planning to move them to Florida without consulting me or the court." Mom's face paled. "They told you. Did you think they wouldn't? Did you think you could just uproot them from their schools, friends, and family without consequences?" Richard arrived minutes later, having been summoned by Mom's panicked text. He entered our house like he owned it, straightening his expensive tie. "I think everyone needs to calm down," he said in a patronizing tone. "Karen and I are building a wonderful opportunity for all our children. This hostility is unnecessary." Dad ignored him completely, addressing Mom. "The emergency custody hearing is scheduled for Monday. Until then, I'm taking the kids with me." "You can't do that," Mom shrieked. "I have primary custody." "Actually, he can," came a new voice. Mom's lawyer standing in our doorway, looking uncomfortable. "Given the circumstances and documentation of the children being left alone for an extended period, the court has granted temporary emergency custody to Mark, pending Monday's hearing. It was all I could do to prevent them from bringing charges." The next hour was chaos. Mom alternated between threats and tears, Richard made calls to his own attorney, and Dad calmly gathered our things. Lily clung to his side while Jackson stood guard over our bags, as if expecting someone to snatch them. I watched my mother transform before my eyes. Gone was the loving mom who had once bandaged scraped knees and cheered at school plays. In her place was a desperate woman willing to sacrifice her children's well-being for a new life with a man she barely knew. "You turned them against me," she accused, pointing at Dad. "You've wanted this all along." "Karen, you did this yourself," Dad replied, his voice sad rather than angry now. "You left 3 minors alone for 8 days to go on vacation with another man's children. What did you think would happen?" As we prepared to leave, Mom made one last attempt, pulling me aside. "Debra, be reasonable. You can come visit the house in Florida next weekend. You'll see how amazing it is. Pool, private beach access, your own bathroom eventually. Don't throw away this opportunity because you're feeling slighted." I looked into her pleading eyes and saw only selfishness. "It was never about the house, Mom. It was about you choosing them over us. Every single time." Her face hardened. "You'll regret this. All of you will." We left with Dad that afternoon, moving temporarily into his small 2-bedroom apartment in Cleveland. The space was tight. Dad gave Jackson and me his bedroom while he slept on the couch, and Lily got the small second bedroom, but it felt safer than our own home had in months. The school counselor became involved after Lily had a breakdown during class the following week, unable to hold in our family secret any longer. Her detailed account of our abandonment added weight to Dad's case. Neighbors provided statements about Mom's frequent absences. Even Mom's coworker reluctantly confirmed she had lied about a family emergency to take vacation days. As Monday's hearing approached, Mom escalated her campaign, alternating between guilt trips, bribes, and threats. But the dam had broken. We were finally telling the truth about what our lives had become since Richard entered the picture. The family court was smaller than I expected, more office building than dramatic courthouse. Dad's parents drove in from Michigan to support us while Mom arrived with Richard, his children conspicuously absent. She had straightened her hair and wore a conservative dress, looking more like the mother I remembered than the woman who had returned from vacation. Our family lawyer, Mr. Bennett, met us outside, reviewing what would happen. "The judge will likely speak to each of you privately," he explained. "Just tell the truth. Don't exaggerate, but don't minimize what happened either." The initial proceedings were formal and tense, with both attorneys presenting their cases. Mom's lawyer painted a picture of an overworked single mother who perhaps used poor judgment, but loved her children dearly. He emphasized her stable employment, the educational opportunities in Florida, and suggested we were being manipulated by our father. Bennett methodically laid out the evidence of abandonment: the empty refrigerator, the missing emergency credit card, the text showing Mom knew exactly what she was doing. He introduced the eviction notice proving financial neglect predated the vacation incident. These children were not only physically abandoned for 8 days, he concluded, but have been emotionally abandoned for months as Ms. Williams prioritized her new relationship over their well-being. I was called to speak first, ushered into the judge's chambers, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "Debra, I want to hear from you what happened in your own words," she said. I took a deep breath and began with the Thursday Mom disappeared, describing our confusion, the struggle to feed ourselves, Jackson, working for grocery money, hiding our situation from authorities for fear of being separated. I showed her the dismissive texts from Mom, the social media posts flaunting her vacation, while we worried about eviction. "Has this pattern of behavior been ongoing?" the judge asked. "Since she met Richard, yes," I admitted. "She started missing important events, forgetting promises. When his kids are around, it's like we become invisible. The vacation was just the worst example." "And the move to Florida, how did you learn about that?" "She announced it after returning, said it wasn't up for discussion. She'd already enrolled us in schools there without telling us or Dad. When I asked about Dad's visitation rights, she said he'd have to adjust and could fly down sometimes." The judge nodded, making notes. "One last question, Debra. What outcome are you hoping for today?" I hesitated, the weight of my answer hanging in the air. "I want us to stay together, me, Jackson, and Lily. I want stability. Dad provides that. He's never let us down even when it was hard. With Mom, I'm always waiting for the next disappointment." Jackson's testimony was briefer but powerful. He described finding jobs to feed his sisters, the humiliation of asking neighbors for work, and his anger at being treated as less important than Richard's son. "She said I could live in the pool house eventually," he said bitterly. "Like I'm the help, not her son." Lily was the last to speak, her small voice steady as she described her nightmares, her fear that Mom wouldn't come back, and the confusing idea of moving away from everything familiar. "I don't want to share a room with Jackson," she said. "I love him, but he's a boy. Sophia gets her own room with a bathroom, but Mom says I have to share because there's not enough space for all of us. But there was enough space before Richard." When we returned to the courtroom, Mom looked pale. The judge called a brief recess to review the evidence, and we sat in strained silence. Mom kept trying to catch our eyes, but we avoided her gaze. Richard checked his watch repeatedly, clearly annoyed by the delay. After 30 minutes, we were called back in. The judge's expression was solemn as she delivered her ruling. "Having reviewed the evidence and testimony, I find that Karen Williams did knowingly and willfully abandon her minor children for 8 days without adequate provision for their care. Furthermore, she attempted to circumvent the existing custody agreement by planning a cross-country move without court approval or notification of the children's father." Mom made a small noise of protest, quickly silenced by her attorney. "Therefore, I am granting temporary full physical custody to Mark Taylor pending a full custody evaluation. Ms. Williams will have supervised visitation twice weekly until the final hearing, which will be scheduled for next month." The judge looked directly at Mom. "Ms. Williams, your actions demonstrate a disturbing prioritization of your new relationship over your children's basic needs. I strongly recommend you seek family counseling before the final hearing if you wish to regain any form of custody." Mom's face crumpled. "But, Your Honor, we're supposed to move in 3 weeks. The closing is already scheduled." "That is no longer the court's concern," the judge replied firmly. "Your children will remain in Ohio with their father until this matter is resolved." As the ruling sank in, Mom's composure shattered completely. She began sobbing, then shouting accusations at Dad for stealing her children, at me for betraying her, even at the judge for not understanding. Richard, witnessing this meltdown, did something that confirmed every suspicion I'd had about him. He stood up, straightened his tie, and walked out of the courtroom without a word to Mom or a backward glance at any of us. His investment in their relationship apparently didn't extend to public scenes or legal complications. Mom's attorney eventually escorted her out, still crying about her ruined plans. We left through a different door, all of us emotionally exhausted, but relieved. "It's not over," Dad warned as we drove back to his apartment. "The final hearing will be difficult, but for now, you're safe and we're together." That night, as we squeezed into Dad's small apartment, I felt the first real peace in months. The space was tight, the furniture secondhand, but there was food in the refrigerator, clean towels in the bathroom, and a parent who had driven through the night just because we needed him. The aftermath brought new challenges. We had to transfer to schools in Dad's district. Dad had to rearrange his work schedule and take on extra shifts to cover the additional expenses. Mom's harassment continued through constant texts and voicemails alternating between tearful pleas and bitter accusations. "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me," became her refrain. Social media became another battleground. Mom posted about her heartbreak over her ungrateful children, gathering sympathy from friends who only knew her curated version of events. Richard's family joined in spreading stories about how we had always been difficult and rejected every attempt to blend our families. Despite Dad's insistence that we ignore it, the public attacks hurt. Former friends from our neighborhood took sides, and rumors spread through our old school. 2 weeks after the hearing, Mom's engagement announcement appeared in the local paper back home without mentioning us. The wedding was apparently proceeding as planned, just without the inconvenient original children. When I saw the announcement, something broke and healed simultaneously inside me. She had made her choice explicitly clear. The final confrontation came when we returned to our old house to collect the rest of our belongings. Dad had arranged it through the attorneys, a supervised visit while Mom was supposedly at work. But she showed up halfway through, agitated and combative. "So you're really going through with this?" she demanded as I packed my books. "Throwing away our family?" "You threw it away first," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "On a beach in Puerto Rico." "I took one vacation," she exploded. "One time I did something for myself after years of putting you three first." "It wasn't just the vacation, Mom. It was everything leading up to it, making us feel like we weren't enough, treating Richard's kids better than your own, planning to move us without even asking what we wanted." She followed me from room to room as I gathered my things. "My new children appreciate what I do for them. They don't fight me at every turn. They understand that adults need happiness too." I stopped the cruelty of her words hanging between us. "Your new children. So that's it. You're just replacing us." For a moment, regret flashed across her face. But then Richard texted and her expression hardened as she checked her phone. "The moving truck comes tomorrow. Take whatever you want. I won't be bringing much to Florida anyway. Fresh start." As we loaded the last of our things into Dad's truck, Mom stood in the doorway of the house where I'd grown up, already looking like a visitor rather than a resident. I waited for some final maternal gesture, a hug, tears, anything to suggest she understood what she was losing. Instead, she said, "You've ruined everything. My wedding, my new family, my chance at happiness. I hope you're satisfied." For the first time, I didn't feel guilt or grief at her words. I felt pity. "I'm sorry you see it that way. I hope someday you realize what you've thrown away." We drove away from our childhood home, not looking back. Mom moved to Florida the following week with Richard. The wedding took place on schedule, though scaled down from their original plans. We weren't invited. The first few months living with Dad were an adjustment for all of us. His apartment wasn't meant for 4 people, but somehow we made it work. Dad gave up his bedroom for Jackson and me, while he slept on a pull-out couch in the living room. Lily took the small second bedroom that had been Dad's home office. We hung sheets for privacy, established bathroom schedules, and learned to navigate the cramped kitchen together. "It's temporary," Dad assured us. "Once the final custody hearing is done, we'll find a bigger place." True to his word, after receiving full legal custody 3 months later, Dad found a 3-bedroom rental house within the same school district. It wasn't fancy. The carpet was worn in places and the kitchen appliances outdated, but it was clean, safe, and ours. The emotional healing took longer than the physical relocation. Lily started having therapy sessions twice weekly to address her anxiety and abandonment issues. For the first month, she would panic if Dad wasn't home exactly when expected, convinced he too would disappear. Her therapist, a gentle woman named Dr. Marshall, helped her develop coping strategies and gradually rebuild her sense of security. "It's normal to be afraid after what happened," Dr. Marshall explained during a family session. "Trust has been broken, and it takes time to believe it won't happen again." Jackson channeled his hurt into sports, joining both the track and wrestling teams at his new school. His anger issues surfaced occasionally: a slammed door, a punched wall, but weekly sessions with a counselor specializing in teen boys gave him healthier outlets. "I don't even miss her sometimes," he confessed one evening while we were doing dishes together. "Is that terrible?" "No," I replied. "I think it's your mind protecting itself." For me, the hardest part was letting go of responsibility. After months of being the surrogate parent, I struggled to step back into the role of regular teenager. I still found myself checking the refrigerator contents, monitoring Lily's homework, and lying awake worrying about bills. "Debra, I've got this," Dad would gently remind me. "You focus on college applications. That's your job right now." Dad made countless sacrifices to rebuild our lives. He took a second job working weekends at a local hardware store to cover the increased expenses. He learned to French braid Lily's hair for school pictures. He attended every parent-teacher conference, track meet, and therapy appointment, often on minimal sleep. Not once did he complain or make us feel like burdens. Mom's attempts to regain custody failed at the final hearing. The judge cited her continued lack of insight into the harm caused by her actions, and her move to Florida as evidence that her priorities remained misaligned with her children's needs. She was granted monthly weekend visitation, which she rarely utilized due to the distance. Her new life in Florida seemed perfect according to social media: beach photos, country club memberships, charity galas with Richard at her side. She cultivated an online image of blissful family life, with her stepchildren rarely mentioning us, except as "my older children who live with their father." The erasure was subtle but complete. 6 months after moving in with Dad, we received an unexpected letter. Not from Mom, but from Sophia, Richard's daughter. "I'm sorry for how everything happened," she wrote. "My dad and your mom made us promise not to tell you about the vacation or the move. They said it would be a surprise, but it felt wrong. I should have warned you somehow." The letter revealed cracks in the perfect facade. Richard was controlling and image-obsessed. The wonderful opportunities in Florida included boarding school for Sophia starting next fall, something she hadn't wanted. The beautiful house had strict rules about which spaces the children could use and when. The perfect family was a performance, not a reality. "In a weird way, you guys escaped," she concluded. "I'm stuck in this fake life where nothing matters except how things look." I shared the letter with Jackson and Dad, but we decided to protect Lily from its contents. It offered a bittersweet validation: we hadn't been the problem after all, but also sadness for Sophia and Aiden, trapped in a different kind of abandonment. As the 1-year mark approached since Mom's disappearance, our new life had taken solid shape. Dad received a promotion at his main job, allowing him to quit the weekend work. Jackson made the state finals in track. Lily went 3 months without a nightmare. I received acceptance letters from several colleges, including one with a scholarship. Mom's contact dwindled to occasional texts on birthdays and holidays. The promised visits rarely materialized, always canceled due to unexpected circumstances. Each cancellation hurt less than the last, the expectation of disappointment becoming its own form of protection. One evening, after a particularly good day, Lily had received an award at school. Jackson had broken his personal record in track, and I had finalized my college decision. Dad surprised us with a special dinner. "I want to celebrate how far we've come," he said, raising his glass of sparkling cider. "A year ago, we were in crisis. Today, we're thriving. I'm so proud of each of you." Looking around our modest dining table, I felt a profound sense of peace. This was family, not the Instagram perfect version Mom chased, but the real thing. People who showed up, who sacrificed, who remained when it would have been easier to leave. "Do you think Mom ever regrets what she did?" Lily asked suddenly, her voice small. Dad considered this carefully. I think someday she'll realize what she lost, and that will be very painful for her. But that's not something for you to worry about, sweetheart. I used to be so angry, Jackson admitted. But now I just feel sorry for her. She traded real love for fake love. The wisdom from my 15-year-old brother brought tears to my eyes. Later that night, I sat on the porch swing of our rental house watching the sunset. Dad joined me, handing me a cup of hot chocolate. "Penny for your thoughts?" he asked. "I was just thinking about family," I replied. "How it's not always what you expect. Sometimes the broken pieces make something stronger when they're put back together." Dad nodded. "You three are the best things in my life. I'm sorry it took such a painful experience to bring us together full time, but I'm not sorry about the result." "Do you think people can change?" I asked, thinking of Mom's latest text promising to do better next time. "People can change when they truly want to," he said carefully. "But change comes from recognizing your mistakes, not blaming others for the consequences of your actions." In that moment, I understood the most important lesson from our ordeal family isn't defined by perfect photos or grand gestures or expensive houses. It's defined by who stays when it would be easier to leave, who sacrifices without resentment, who shows up day after day even when it's hard. Mom had chosen the appearance of family over its reality. In doing so, she lost something precious that Instagram likes and beach vacations could never replace. As for us, we gained something unexpected from the abandonment: a stronger bond with each other, resilience we didn't know we possessed, and the certainty that we were truly loved by the parent who remained. Have you ever had to rebuild your sense of family after a betrayal? The journey isn't easy, but sometimes what emerges is stronger than what was broken. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and healing. Share in the comments. If you've experienced a parent choosing a new family over their original children, your story matters too. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and remember that sometimes the family we rebuild is more precious than the one we lost.